sexual assault victim. Important to say that, a military veteran, Rebecca Bloomer. So there was a rape kit taken. The nurse, you ran into a nurse who said...
Yes, she told me my blood work came back positive for ketamine.
Which is like a roofie?
Yeah, it's a horse tranquilizer.
And then later, the military told you what?
They told me nothing came back in my toxicology report.
And then you were discharged?
Yeah, they discharged me for DUI.
And along with that, one of the things, if it wasn't painful enough, tell me if I get this right, when you sign on for another period of duty, they give you an advance of your salary. They wanted that advance back.
Yes, $14,000.
Do you still owe them that?
Yes, I still owe them, and I haven't paid one dime.
Good for you. All right, so she's been through this ordeal. The military is not supportive, doesn't really want to even deal with it. Kick her out, ask for their money back. She gets home, and this is what happens. Roll it. While serving in the Navy in 2010, Rebecca Bloomer was drugged and raped. She says the Navy covered up the crime, then discharged her. She came home to an empty house.
And all my furniture was already packed. I sat in my living room floor, and I just started swallowing pills. My dog came up, and he put his paw on my hand. He just looked up at me and whined. And I knew I couldn't give up. But I wanted to so bad. That was the darkest moment.
So, Rebecca, who do you confide in at that point? What was it that pulled you out of wanting to kill yourself? Where's your family?
My mom lives overseas.
And your stepdad, he was a military guy as well.
Yeah, he told me, don't come crying to me when you have nowhere to go.
So, you've been fighting, it sounds like an uphill battle in many ways your whole life.
Yeah.
And that was, I said at the top, I gather that's one of the reasons the military was appealing, is this is a way I can have a job, I can get an education.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to your sister.
Yeah.
And you move in with her.
Yeah. And because of, I guess, button heads there, I had nowhere else to go after about a month.
And Rebecca was nice enough to take us back to the streets where she lived in Houston. Roll it.
I didn't have my family. My mom had moved overseas for her job. My stepdad, he said, don't come crying to me when you have nowhere to go. My whole family was ripped apart. The military men in my family told me, suck it up, get over it, move on. It's hard not having anybody to turn to. And then when you have nobody that will take you in, I couldn't rent an apartment because I didn't have a job. I had unemployment, but nobody will rent to you on unemployment because it's not income. So I would go anywhere to try to stay warm. But there were some days where I just rode the bus all day, and I'd venture out onto different buses, and I'd just kind of pretend that I was somewhere else. I mean, for so long, I pushed it down. I mean, when I got out, it wasn't the first thing on my mind. The first thing on my mind is, well, where am I going to sleep? Not getting over a rape. I'm
taken by the start of this story. Impeccable record. really on your way somewhere. You're a victim of an assault, and within months you are homeless, thinking of killing yourself. I've never experienced anything close to what you've gone through. What is living on the streets, really being homeless, what does that do to your spirit?
You're scared of everything. I mean, you're already scared of everything after an assault. I mean, anyone who tries to help you, it's just to steal from you. I mean, people would say, yeah, I have a couch you can sleep on, and I'd get robbed of everything I had.
Really?
Yeah.
So is it true you would go to clubs at night, at nightclubs, because it was warm and it was a place to hang out for a while?
Yeah, and the particular club I went to stayed open till the last person left. So I could stay there, I could, curl up in a booth.
What is it that keeps you going? You reach that dark point where you think about ending it, but you don't. But it doesn't get better the next day. There's no rainbow coming out. What is it inside you? Because there's nothing so far in your story that says, come on, Rebecca, you can do it.
At first it was the anger, I told myself I'm not gonna let whoever did this to me win. I'm not. They can't break me. And then I met my fiance.
Good, perfect button to this. When we come back, a new beginning, maybe the beginnings of a rainbow. For Rebecca, we'll be right back. You said, I think I'm going to take you up on that.
Yeah.
So what is it that made you trust somebody, especially a guy from an outsider, a guy you met in a club while you're homeless?
I don't know. I mean, he just seemed to have something compassionate about him.
Because you weren't out looking for someone. You're actually anti-trusting.
Yeah.
So is that, you guys moved in together?
Yeah. I mean, he just started, telling me about, his life and stuff that, he went through, and that, he was homeless at one point. He could always, go to, the place that he had, his grandmother's garage apartment. And so he knew what I went through,
you felt like you could relate in some way.
Yeah.
Where does the DUI charge stand?
Since I haven't been able to even get back to Georgia, where this took place, there's a bench warrant for the DUI.
So if you go to Georgia, you'll probably be arrested.
Yeah.
And you owe them the $14,000.
Yep.
Do you know, without naming any names, do you remember the guys that approached you that night in the bar?
I see their faces, but I don't know who they are. When I requested my Freedom of Information Act request for my rape kit, they told me I couldn't have it to protect the names of the innocent.
So where's your emotional level now with the military?
Not good. I mean, I loved the first enlistment that I was in, the first 4 years. But the last 14 months, I hated every moment of it.
Is it, and I know you're coming from, you're coming from a specific point of view, but everything I've read about this and watching The Invisible War, the feeling I have is that women are told this is part of the job.
Yeah.
As outrageous as this may sound, being raped, part of the job.
Yeah.
That's not an outrageous statement.
It's ridiculous. I mean, what other job is it required to put up with criminal activity? And it just be like, okay, it's whatever. Suck it up, go back to work.
Well, Rebecca, I don't even know if this is going to sound right because it's coming to me as I'm sitting here, but you went in to the military in a way to sort of be a hero for your country. It didn't go as you've planned so far, but I got to tell you, in my eyes, you are a major hero. So you stay here. When we come back, the filmmakers behind The Invisible War, it's very powerful, Oscar nominated. This movie, if you're watching this passively at home and you're saying, that's kind of a bummer, you're not hearing the story. These are our soldiers and it's not just women either. Men are being raped as well, only they're just even less likely to bring it up because of the stigma. But the invisible war is helping change military policy already. It's having an impact. We'll be right back.
On Today in the Bay, see breaking news and stories from overnight. Plan your day with the
love.
My wife Barbara, I want to be with her again.
And rock it out. Wednesday on the Jeff Probst Show. Female soldiers in combat zones are more likely to be raped by fellow soldiers than to be killed by enemy fire. In 2010, filmmakers Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering set out to expose the military's most shameful secret, the epidemic of rape among the ranks. They spent 2 years making a film that is shaking the military to its core. Roll it.
I feel like I'm responsible for it.
The Invisible War tackles one of the most underreported stories of our generation.
If you take into account that women don't report because of the extreme retaliation, and it's probably somewhere near about 500,000 women have now been sexually assaulted in the U.S. military.
Since its premiere at the Sundance Film Festival, the film has been circulated through the highest levels of the Pentagon and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary. Welcome, Kirby and Amy. Thanks for being here. I'm a documentary fiend. I devour them, and Lisa and my wife, watch this, and it's one of the few films that I just found myself going, I can't actually believe it's true. If at the end of it you told me it was a mockumentary, I would say, oh, that made more sense.
Yeah.
So how did you even find this topic to make? Why have we not heard about it?
Well, that's what we ask ourselves. I mean, we read an article and we started researching it. We were astounded at the numbers. We were astounded that nobody had made a film on it. Actually, even to date, there hasn't been a comprehensive book on it. And I think the reason is the military has done such a good job at keeping this story under wraps. And so we felt the story had to get out because there's hundreds of thousands of people like Rebecca who've experienced this. And these are some of our best soldiers. So we felt, that we had to make a movie on this.
And Amy, yes. As we've heard from Rebecca, speaking up, which you have a lot of women in your film that are speaking up, is not easy. It's not rewarded.
No. When you said, why haven't we heard about this? I mean, we asked ourselves that over and over again. And there's three things. The institution itself wouldn't tell you about it. And then survivors like Rebecca, they're so busy just trying to get their lives together, worrying about brushing their teeth in the morning. They don't become advocates. They're so traumatized, and the nature of the trauma is so debilitating that it doesn't then lead to a generation and a population of activists that can actually fight this. So it was a perfect storm for this not getting out, for being covered up for decades, and for nothing happening, for just to be stasis.
Kirby, what was most surprising when you started delving into this?
Well, I think one of the stories is we spoke to 3 single women who were each raped by a married man, and it was those women were either charged or threatened to be charged with adultery. We heard that 3 times personally, and the thing that was so shocking is we kept hearing the same story.
Let's just make sure that's stuck.
Okay.
These are women who were raped by a married man,
right.
So they were charged with adultery
Or threatened to be
or
charged. Yes.
for sleeping with a married man.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And as shocking, equally shocking, was Rebecca's story is not anomalous. Every single person I spoke to, man and woman, when they reported, they were discouraged from actually moving forward. They were threatened with, oh, are you sure you want to report? Well, you were drinking. How old are you? We'll slap you with underage drinking. Are you sure you want to report? He was married. We'll slap you with adultery. I mean, that was shocking. You don't get any support. You don't get any desire to really, you get disbelieved. And that is, yes, as Rebecca, as in your story, you were talking about that over and over.
Let me read something very recent in the press about an Air Force pilot sexual assault that was dismissed after he was convicted, overturned. Here's a couple of lines from this story that stood out to me. Court-martial convening authorities have vast discretionary powers unmatched by all parties in the civil criminal justice system. And it says they may reduce punishment or dismiss charges or conviction. Here's the best part: for any reason or no reason. That's the language.
Right.
No reason.
Right.
I owe you a favor. You
Right.
got me off mine, I'll get you off yours.
And that's something as civilians we didn't know, that the military justice system actually operates very differently from civilian justice system, and that there is this centralized power for them to just simply dismiss suits.
What was their reaction when they found out you guys were doing this movie?
Well, I think when they found out it was coming out at Sundance, they were very alarmed. Actually, the Secretary of Defense actually did a sort of a press conference, talking about how all the good things that they were doing, which of course was almost nothing, right? I mean, just in 2011, nearly 20,000 men and women were sexually assaulted in the U.S. military, just in that year alone. So they've got a long way to go.
What do you think is most important about this movie? What is it like? I keep saying to our audience during the commercials, if you guys aren't hearing this, then you're not listening, because it's so shocking. What is that thing that needs to happen?
Well, I think they have the military justice system is broken. They have to right now, just like you were talking about. People are in a position to control the justice system. It has to be moved outside of the chain of command into a completely independent system like it's done in the civilian world. As long as it's kept inside the chain of command, you will hear these stories.
And there has to be a cultural shift, a consciousness shift, so that immediately when people report, they're not blamed and exiled and, suffer reprisals. I mean, they have to be supported. They have to be encouraged to come up and report, and these serial perpetrators have to be prosecuted. They're not.
Up next, how are women in the military prepared for these dangers? This is a crazy training video you're going to see that the military uses. It's a real training tape to prevent rape. We'll show you that when we come back.
The lawsuit that I am also a part of, they dismissed it saying rape is an occupational hazard of the military. They don't tell you that on recruiting posters.
Closed captioning for the Jeff Probst.
One year, 100 investigations.
How many of you believe you've been retaliated against for trying to do the right thing?
And nobody ever told you not to use $650 million.
I don't know, I don't remember.
In fields like these, children as young as 12 harvest the food we eat.
Why are there no laws to protect consumers against something like this? Are Americans getting an accurate picture of how often crime is happening?
The investigative unit on NBC Bay Area. We investigate.
You walking back alone?
Yeah, it's just a short walk to my Jeep.
Alright.
How you doing? What's your name? Hey, come here, talk to me for a second. I just want to talk to you. Oh, are you okay?
No, there's this guy, he grabbed me.
Why are you by yourself? Where's your buddy?
I didn't think I needed one.
Sexual assault is preventable. Are you doing your part?
Yeah. Our military made that video and showed it to the women, saying, it didn't say if you're assaulted, report it to your officer. It said, hey, make sure you're doing your part. I'm rarely at a loss for words.
Take a buddy to the bathroom.
Take a buddy, yeah. Better force in numbers.
Yeah.
You think you'd be safe. The one place you'd be safe would be on a military base.
And blaming the victim and not saying, okay, let's find these perpetrators and prosecute them and go after them. Instead, it's your fault you didn't walk alone. I mean, these are not...
If you're just tuning in, this is Rebecca. She was raped while in the military. These are the filmmakers, Kirby and Amy, who did a great movie, The Invisible War, about the growing problem of rape in the military. What your film really drives home is the sheer magnitude of an epidemic of rape in the military. Take a look, roll it.
I see shadow of a human head over my body.
Next thing you know, I'll wake up and he's on top of me.
He pushed my legs apart and put himself on top of me and started pulling at my shirt.
And I wake up and he's on top of me. He's already penetrated me.
I was drugged. I remember the sounds, the smell,
He put his locked and loaded .45 at the base of my skull, engaged the bolt so that I knew there was a round chamber.
All I could do was continue to concentrate on breathing.
He slammed my head against the concrete wall and very forcefully had sex with me.
I just went to my tent, pulled the sleeping bag over my head, and cried myself to sleep.
So within the 2-week period, he raped me 5 times.
When we got tested, I had trick and gonorrhea, and I was pregnant.
How did you find all of these women?
We did what an investigative reporter would do. I mean, we put out a Facebook page. We used social media a lot. We went on chat rooms. Another producer, Tanner Barklow, went on chat rooms looking for anyone talking about something. We, on our Facebook page, we said, we're a documentary film team. This is totally confidential. We're looking into this. And what was interesting is more often than not, people would contact me and say, well, I have a story, but why are you so interested? Because they didn't even know this happened to other people.
Really?
Yes. Because imagine if you're 18 or 19, you enter the military, this happens to you, you're not given any help and support, you're blamed, then you start imploding from the trauma and sort of acting out, you get discharged, usually with a personality disorder. Actually, most of those women who were exemplary soldiers before, there's personality disorder on your record, you're discharged, and then you start thinking, right, without any therapy or help or knowledge, maybe it's me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I should have just sucked it up. Maybe I don't know how to handle this.
So is Rebecca, despite how much of a journey she had, is she one of the bright lights in terms of recovering?
Yeah, she's one of the few rainbows, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
more, there are many women that are not doing as well as her, and she was homeless.
Yeah, it's the #1 cause of homelessness in our vets.
For women.
For women.
For women, yeah. And then, of course,
can you imagine?
The suicide story, every survivor that we spoke to either had attempted suicide or are considered it seriously, and some had attempted it multiple times. I mean, this was just a standard part of the story.
And that's what I want to bring home or really emphasize, is that unlike other kinds of rape, which are horrific, this kind of rape is so psychologically damaging because of the lack of support systems that you have access to after it happens. And that's what people don't understand. And that's why these exemplary soldiers can't lead productive lives or reintegrate into society. And it's just shameful. It's not just the assault, it's the aftermath. It's the way they're treated by this system that had told them, here are your brothers, we'll take care of you, and then they don't. It's that core betrayal.
And beyond that, the good soldier defense. This exists, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What is that? Explain what that is.
Well, in many cases, the men who are doing the assault are really the best soldiers in the unit. So obviously their commanders want to keep them and protect them. And most assaults, I think it's really important to realize, most assaults are caused by serial predators. Most men in the military are not rapists, right? There's a small percentage of men in the military who assault again and again. And what they'll do is they'll oftentimes choose someone who won't be believed, assault them, deliberately set them up with drugs, with alcohol, and then if the person even reports, because in most cases they don't, that person will not be believed at all.
And I read that there's basically the philosophy is if you're a great soldier, you have a currency, and you can trade that currency in and get rid of a court-martial because you know what, you've done a good job, we'll trade that for this.
That's the core of the problem. That's the problem with the military, is that you don't have access to a system of justice that isn't in the hands of your commanders, and your commanders want to keep their good soldiers, so they'll overlook or maybe not want to really listen to a complaint about the soldier. They really need him. They need him on the battlefield, and they know him really well. She's a new recruit. They don't know much about her. Maybe she does have a drinking problem. Maybe she is a slut. Maybe it is all the things that he's saying she is, right? So they're going to trust the person they know who's been in their unit and performed well. And so it's not even out of malice. It's just sort of the way the system's rigged.
Earlier this month, Senator Claire McCaskill of Missouri expressed outrage over an Air Force general's decision to overturn a jury's guilty verdict against a pilot accused of raping a fellow officer. Take a look.
A Colonel James Wilkerson was convicted by a jury, a military jury, of sexual assault. And with a stroke of a pen last week, a general dismissed those charges against him. I question now whether that unit that man returns to, whether there's any chance a woman who is sexually assaulted in that unit would ever say a word. Because what that general just said is that jury's decision didn't matter.
Commanders have this authority for a reason, for a vested reason. And I would just tell you that I would look beyond one case, and because
Unfortunately, General, I think I could bring you a lot of cases. I think I could bring you a lot where cases were not brought, where victims were not taken seriously. I think there's a culture issue that's going to have to be addressed here. And what this decision did was all it did was underline and put an exclamation point behind the notion that if you are sexually assaulted in the military, good luck.
Okay, that's just what I was talking. That's the same case here. Up next, we're going to the government. That's what we're doing when we come back. We're all going to go. No, we're not. Metaphorically, we should. Up next, changes in the system and what they mean for victims like Rebecca. We'll be right back.
To the chow hall alone, and the next thing I know, I was laying on the ground. I was struck from behind, and two guys were holding me down, and one guy was pulling my pants down. And, you know, he was taking care of his business. You know, I struggled, and I was being struck and hit, and told to shut up or they'd kill me. And I see how it destroyed my life.
Another clip from the Oscar-nominated documentary, The Invisible War. We've been talking about the epidemic of sexual abuse towards women, but there are male victims too. What were the percentages of men that have been attacked?
Well, actually, more men in the military are sexually assaulted than women each year. I mean, that's astonishing. And they're even less likely to report. I think the figures are 1 in 15 men actually report because there's such a stigma associated with it.
And before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, if you reported, you get charged with having homosexual sex. So.
And then thrown out for that.
Thrown out for that, so you couldn't report.
What is happening right now? I remember reading that Leon Panetta, right after the film came out, made some change, right?
Yeah, no, he made an important first step. He elevated the decision to investigate and prosecute these crimes from the level of unit commander to the level of colonel or Navy captain. And that was good because it was, higher up the chain of command. But he kept it in the chain of command. And as long as it's in the chain of command, you'll see, generals overturning court-martial decisions. And it also, what happens is that victims then don't report. This is the problem. If they don't perceive they're going to get justice, they don't report, and then these serial predators go on to assault again and again and again.
Well, and that's one of the things Rebecca and I were talking about before the show, is that these guys get out of the military. This isn't a thing that's confined to the military. They're now in your neighborhood.
And they have nothing on their record. They've never been charged.
They have an honorable discharge.
So the person you most likely trust is somebody with an honorable discharge coming out of the military. They're our finest, right?
Wow.
So it's the job of the military to not only to protect the military, but to protect the entire society.
So go ahead.
And they've gotten great free training on how to be a really effective predator. So you have,
Right. So what if you're really outraged and you decide, this is the time I'm going to get up off my ass, I'm actually going to do something. What is it we should do?
We have a website, notinvisible.org, and on it there is a list of senators and congresspersons, ones who are active in this issue, ones we want to activate, and it really does help if people go to that, find that list, and contact the people. We give the contact information. We try and make it as easy as possible. I think we're working on a form letter also that people can just sort of download and send. So that would be actually hugely, hugely helpful. We have a Facebook page, which would actually be, the more numbers we accrue to that, the more the Pentagon is watching and knows. Survivors are on that page. It's really nice to say, hey, I'm here.